Hi, and welcome to Spiritual Expansion. I'm your host, Melissa Fike, and I'm going to share with you some insight into Ascension and why the Akashic Records can help you ascend. Also, I'm going to share with you what's happening energetically and what that means to you as a spiritual aspirant. There is a major spiritual awakening happening on the earth plane. This awakening is creating a new energy system. We can no longer live in the old paradigm. That means the old paradigm is fading out and the new one is merging in. So there's an overlap. They're fading and merging all at the same time. This is an evolution. This is happening because this is an evolutionary process. And this process takes place over time because it can't happen immediately, especially on third dimensional energy systems. This old energy paradigm that's fading out is starting to fade out, but it's also fighting for its life. It's fighting to keep the old way, the old energy system. And there's this struggle happening energetically between 5D new energy and the 3D way of life. But if you're watching this now, you are one of the few people who came here to awaken and to usher in the new earth frequency. We're starting to just understand how to utilize this multidimensional possibility that's showing up for us. We live in this energy system, and it has a really powerful polarity. This polarity is why we experience so many extremes in our world. Good, bad, hot, cold, love, unlovable, love and hate. To humans, because most of us believe we live in this bubble that as individuals, nothing is affecting us. We live in our own bubble, so nothing outside is affecting us, but that we don't influence anything else around us. We live in this ideal that we are our own being, that we aren't part of the whole. But you're constantly interacting multidimensionally. And what we do as a collective and as individuals affects the universe and vice versa. This multidimensional wisdom has been stated by different philosophers, and also the Emerald Tablet it's the philosophy of the macrocosm and the microcosm. So the macro and microcosm shows the distinction about how we're influenced multidimensionally and how we as humans also influence other dimensions. So the macrocosm, which is the bigger picture, and the microcosm, which is part of that whole, so it's the whole, macro, minor is the microcosm. This microcosm and macrocosm is the understanding that the part is the reflection of the whole, and the whole is the reflection of the part. And we're constantly being influenced by the frequency, by the energies, by the thought forms all around us. And guess what? You're also influencing the world around you. Now, in alchemy, they call this as above, so below, meaning what is happening here is happening here. What's happening in the whole galaxy is happening in our little world within the earth plane. Now, what's happening? It's above this energy of thinking that we are living in a linear time and space. It's different from linear time and space. And this is where we get caught up because our mind is used to utilizing the frequency of time and space and linear experiences. But when we look at the macrocosm and the microcosm, the bigger picture and the how it influences us and how we influence the bigger picture, we have to recognize that we are in it with the whole universe. We're all in it together. There's no one who isn't part of this awakening. But some of us came here to help others awaken. That does not mean you're forcing other people to awaken. And that's really important. You do it by being the frequency that you want to show people, by being the energy around you that shows that you can hold a higher frequency. The spiritual awakening process can be really difficult. And in order to transcend the lower vibrations of the ego, you'll need to transform the lower vibrations that are stuck in your energy bodies. Your emotional, mental, and physical bodies are this software program, and you're constantly feeding it. And that's how it shows up for you. What you feed those energy bodies is what happens and how you perceive your world. So looking at your life in just one direction is defaulting you into the energy of sleepwalking. We are meant at this time to heal ourselves multi-dimensionally. And your wake-up call is that you can't look at just like one area of your life and take care of that and not look at the whole bigger picture. So it's not the microcosm, it's the macrocosm, the whole energy. And what I was shown in the Akashic Records is that you can experience a really deep and transformational healing. And this is an opportunity for us to transcend the lower frequencies. And it's so much more than a past life. So I know it's really hard because we're kind of intrigued by past life recall. And most of the time there's like maybe a little bit of surface healing in that understanding of that lifetime. But you're only utilizing part of the Akashic Records. There are many degrees of the Akashic Records, and depending on where you are interacting with them depends on the depth of your own transformation. This because these different degrees in the records hold different energy imprints, different energy frequencies or information. Now, because there are different levels to the Akashic Records, it's not like you have to try to figure it out, because Spirit downloaded this information to me and I want to help you understand it. So there are records on the lower mental plane. These records connect to everything in the human realm, and they are a very reliable source in the records. These records are a good first step. It shows you past lives, all the information that you've received from being a human being, but they're not actually connected to the full extent of the records. Here you'll find all those past connections, but not the full awareness of your own part in every situation, or the complete awareness of your true self. So it may show you that in that lifetime someone killed you, but it doesn't necessarily show you who you were in that lifetime and why they killed you. So sometimes we take a piece of our past life and we make it our story. And here you can get really fully immersed in the records. You really can. You can view it on a multidimensional realm, at least 360 within the experience exactly of that past life. But every thought, every experience, every feeling and connection to everyone that you affected and that affected you is in those records. But most of us only perceive a piece of the information. Now, there's another level in the mental plane, This is at a different degree, and this is where you start to connect and understand how creation happens, and where you can fully comprehend how karma relates to your experience. Here, the energy connects to the information from all universes or the cosmos itself, and how it influences the human experience and the earth plane itself. So those two levels give you certain amount of information. And then there's a level on the quantum field. This is a pure consciousness energy. It is a living record. So think about this. The lower two mental planes records hold an imprint. They are imprinted. And it's kind of like in a book. That's what a lot of people say. It's on a book or a scroll or a movie, right? So, but it's imprinted. It's there across all time and space. But on the quantum field, it's an energy of a living energy. So when you work in the Akashic Records on the quantum field, you're able to transcend and transmute in a whole new way. It will redefine your records. It will recalibrate your energy field and your Akashic Records. This is a collective consciousness, and it's the most reliable information associated with our planetary experience. The Akashic Records found on the quantum field contain the most loving, living records that are available to you. These records hold not just the information from our planet, but all the cosmos, how we interrelate, how we connect to each other, what it all really means, where creation is happening. So everything around us, including the most subtle energy, resides here. All the records of everything that happened on all the planes below that, so meaning the mental plane, the emotional plane, and the physical plane, that becomes warehoused in the Akashic Records on the quantum field. So when you read the records in the quantum, it allows you to experience the fullest scope of any event or any situation. And you're not just seeing the human experience, but also the energy karmic entanglements that go with it. Now, we'll go more deeply into karma in the next episode, because we're going to talk about how family shame and what family karma is. But I just want to say that karma isn't what you think it is, because they showed me something a little bit different. Because really, karma is just this emotional, mental junk and crap that we've stored in our energy bodies. That's all it is. Once we release the storage and we feng shui it, you transcend. And the records shift. The records rewrite themselves. And only at the quantum field can the records rewrite themselves. There's no punishment in karma. Karma is a way for us to understand, a way for us to connect to our world here. And then once you start transcending that karma, you understand that your consciousness is part of the whole, and it's all interconnected. So all the details of information and how creation started and the vibrational possibilities of it all becoming matter, that is understood in the records on the quantum field. In other words, creation started at this frequency. And when you start to work in the Akashic Records on the quantum field, or that oneness field, you're literally going to source the connection to healing. You are going to connect to and understand how transformation and healing and creation really happen. And this is why all this ancient knowledge is in these records, because it's going to help you understand the bigger picture and this cosmic energy and the cosmic creative process, because it's open for you to explore and understand here. So you can connect to the quantum field and the Akashic Records in the quantum field and utilize creative energy from the source of creation itself. So any spiritual concepts or esoteric knowledge is available in the Akashic Records on the quantum. And what I want you to understand is that you also receive a whole different perspective of your own life, of your own karma, and how maybe the karmic situation started, and how to actually transcend and heal that karma. When you start to transcend and transmute the energies of your own karmic patterns, and that's what the Akashic Records on the quantum field show you, that we have these larger macrocosm patterns, not just what lifetime you had issues in, not just this lifetime and all the trauma you experienced in this lifetime, or issues or sadness or lower frequencies in this lifetime, but the macrocosm of the patterns that you came here to transcend and transmute. And the Akashic Records on the quantum field can clear multi-dimensionally. And what happens is you're clearing on all these levels. And let me tell you what the levels are. You're clearing on the mental, emotional, and physical bodies. You're clearing on your cellular memory. You're clearing in the genetic patterns. You're clearing in the Akashic Records itself. And you're clearing your DNA. But the interesting thing is, what we used to do, when somebody would say you had to clear on all these levels, we're like, in the energy field, clearing the mental, emotional, then we're in the records doing this. But the moment that you take a full understanding and account of what's going on energetically around you and the patterns themselves, the Akashic Records on the quantum field automatically and instantly recreate the records and rewrite the records and clear multidimensionally. So technically, you don't do anything. You are aware of what's in there because you're aware that this healing is part of your evolution, your transformation. And the healing that's happening in the Akashic Records on the quantum field is transmuted. So you don't need to clear on all the levels. It automatically does it for you. And I've watched this time and time again, and some people are just floored how quickly the shift happens, how quickly they can reach higher states of consciousness like self-love, oneness, wholeness, expansion, connection. It's amazing. Inner peace. So our experience here on this realm is very linear, right? We live in a very linear experience, but you're multidimensional. And that is why it's important for you to heal multidimensionally. Now, what happens is that we come here with these patterns. We choose the family line that we are going to incarnate in. I'll pick that family. They have a lot going on. Boy, I will really understand compassion because I'm going to have so much abuse. And then we get here and it's trauma after trauma after trauma. I mean, I've had clients where they started their trauma in utero, or they started their trauma being beaten at a very young age. This energy is what we chose to incarnate in. And I know people hate hearing that, and I get it. I completely understand that. But there's also an empowerment through that. And that's what I want to share with you now. The empowerment is that maybe you came here to experience that, to transcend it, to work through that, so that you could really understand something different. Now, I don't know your personal story, and you don't know mine either. But what I can share with you is that we're all in this together. There's no one here that does not have some deep karmic traumas and issues, especially if you are on the spiritual path. We choose this path specifically to help us transcend it. Because if we come here and we are here to have a lot of issues, then we are able to transcend it because we are at a higher frequency. We already understand it. So what happens is we get imprinted with certain energies from our genealogy, from our genetics, and then from our environment. What is that? Like epigenetics. So if we were hit during the day, or we had we were exposed to chemicals at a young age. We also have cellular memory because the cells remember. The cells remember what happened. If you had an operation, your cells felt unsafe. Let's say you had an operation on your knee or on your appendix, just for instance, you're cut open. Your cells are like, run away. How can we protect ourselves? Your cells remember. So everything is imprinted in the energy field of the human. When we work in the Akashic Records on the quantum field, we're transcending those things. And when we transcend them, then we live at a whole nother frequency. And remember, we're always asking ourselves, am I safe right now? Is this a safe experience? I'm going to talk a little bit about abuse. And this is because I've not met anyone, and I mean anyone, who's not experienced some sort of an abuse. Mental, physical, emotional, sexual, spiritual. Those are the levels of abuse on the human realm. Unfortunately, 3D experience is the experience of control, manipulation, and abuse, and victimization. This is not a bad thing. It's just how we are wired right now. Of course, we're transcending that. But if you have some cellular memory, or you have an imprint of abuse, including an operation or a car accident or falling out of a tree, who knows? If you still have that imprinted in your energy field at all, you're going to have a harder time transcending and bringing forward the higher states of consciousness, like I mentioned before, self-love, connection, inner peace, right? So what I understand through all the years that I have been working with people in the Akashic Records on the quantum field, transcending these lower frequencies, I really understand that abuse is part of the thing that we are all here to transcend. We cannot move from 3D experience without looking at that. And many people deny it. I had one person who is of an Asian culture, and they said, everybody's hit, so it's not a big deal. And I'm like, but you don't understand. When you are smacked around or hit or however that physical abuse happens, your cells remember. And when your cells remember, your cells respond. So even if you think it's normal, your body remembers. I've had also people say, well, I didn't experience any really big abuse, but maybe it was enough that it impacted your emotional self? Are you really emotional? Are you empathic? Do you take on other people's energy? That is a form of abuse, believe it or not, because we're holding in or taking in or integrating other people's energy within ours. We're abusing ourselves. So we're taking your emotion and making it our own. That's self-abuse. Bear with me, because sometimes people get very stressed out when I start talking about this because it's triggering their abuse. And some want to deny it. Other people are like, hell yeah, I have abuse. And recognize that all abuse is direct correlation to victimization. That is another theme or pattern that is part of the human realm of 3D. Look around you. No one can deny that there is a lot of victimization happening all over. Now, you also want to understand that you are transcending the abuse patterns and the victimization patterns. And when I start pointing out victimization to people, they are kind of floored. Some people see their victim. Other people, it's so hidden in their shadows, they have no idea that they have victimization. What we're doing is we're not holding on to the story of your victimization, of your abuse, of your pain, of your sorrow, of your grief. It's not about the story. And this is where so many spiritual people get stuck, because they're used to connecting to the story and not recognizing that their evolution is important to let go of the story. Because where is the story located in the records? It's located in the lower and higher mental planes. In the Akashic Records, there is no story. It's just energy. And when you transcend that energy on the quantum, then the records on the lower level and in the quantum field get rewritten and the story changes. And I have seen this 1,000 times with so many people in my classes, in my healing, them calling me in and saying, hey, someone else healed me, and this is what I experienced in my swaps in the Akashic Records certification class. I have seen it so many times. I've seen it in my own life. My own stories have changed. So some of my stories of abuse, I'm like, yeah, I knew that happened, but I have zero trigger. I'm not upset about it. I don't think about it, and I transcended it. So it's no longer a story. It's just a thing. And this is what's weird. People don't get that until they've experienced it. And I watch the people in my classes when I do a demonstration on someone, and they're like, I'm like, so what about the story of when your mother beat you? And they're like, well, and I'm like, is it different? And they're like, yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, I'm not, it's like, it doesn't matter. Where 10 minutes ago, they were crying over it. They were angry at their mother. That's how quickly it changes. Because when we are transcending this energy and healing in the Akashic Records on the quantum field, the energy is completely unwind. So the story changes. It's not about the story. It's about the energy. It's about the frequency. So it's less about the story and more about the frequency or energy, because you can't have a story and a lower vibrational story and lower vibrations in your energy field and hold a higher frequency. They don't work together. What you're doing in the Akashic Records on the quantum field is you're transcending those lower frequencies and bringing forward your higher consciousness, your higher self, the oneness energy. The story, if you're holding tight onto a lower frequency story, there's no way you can transcend or transmute any lower frequencies. You're going to be stuck in the energy of karma. And that is important because what is a past life but a story? And I like to joke with people, like, how many stories of pain, of grief, of being frustrated or angry or being hurt or ridiculed or shamed do you have in this lifetime? Do you really need to bring all those other lifetimes into it? I'm sure you have plenty right here that we can work on. Let's start here. And this is because in order to transcend and raise your frequency and live in 5D, you need to transcend your stories. But if you're holding on to the energy of any story, you are living that frequency. And when you live that frequency, you are living in a place of fear. You're living in a lower vibration. And you can't go into 5D if you're holding on to 3D stories. Now, you can pretend or spiritually bypass your stories, which I see often. There are a lot of people who will say, oh no, I'm all love and light. Everything in my life is love and light. I'm all love and light. And then they're like angry at this person, scared about this situation. I understand. But that's not how this works. There's a deeper frequency to all of this. And you are here to transcend and transmute those lower frequencies in order to bring forward your higher consciousness. We can't anchor in our higher consciousness if we are bogged down by all the energies around us, meaning all the energies of other people that we may have taken on as empaths, or all of our own fears or anger or discontent, because that energy is really dense. It's a very dense frequency. Lower frequencies, lower energies are very dense because they're 3D. But in 5D, it can't hold those frequencies. You think that you can just go, oh no, I'm just going to ascend to 5D and just not have any of those things, but still live in 3D. You can. The beauty of it is that we're really hitting a very quickening of the awakening process. And these things, these shadows are being shown. Whew, there's another shadow. There's another shadow. There's another thing I need to transcend. Oh, I really need to look at my victim right now. There's another anger thing. There's another situation I need to transcend. It's showing up for us because we're asking to live more in a higher frequency. If you are looking into the ascension and bringing in a higher vibration, that's how that's going to happen. The real question is, how are you going to transcend this stuff? How are you going to let go of the energy of the issues that you have with your parents, with your friends, with your siblings, with the government? You know, fill in the blank. The thing is, there's something called the Law of One, which is channeled work that was channeled in the 80s. And they talk about, in order to raise our vibration, in order to move from what they call third density to fourth density, or what we would say is, into fifth dimension, right? So same thing. I think it's pretty much the same energy system. If you're looking to do that, you need to forgive. You need to let go of the energy that's holding you hostage in the story, in the victimization, in victimizing other people, meaning, oh, that person did that to me and that person did that to me, because you are seeing yourself as separate when you do that. When you're blaming other people in your life or blaming yourself, you're creating a separation. You're creating a disconnect. In order for you to get to the next level of our ascension process into 5D, you want to let go of that lower frequency. And you can only do that by letting go of the story, transcending and transmuting. And the fastest way that I have found is utilizing the Akashic Records on the quantum field. What you're doing is you're making a really clear intention. Okay, I'm going to go into the records and help me clear these imprints of energies, this multi-dimensional frequency, and helping me see through and understand where everything is coming from. Over the years, all the transformation that I've seen, what I recognize is that a lot of times the Akashic Records show me exactly what people need to help them transcend. Forgiveness is one of them, and letting go of victimization. Once I had a client and she had experienced abuse at a very young age, and it was from her mother specifically, and actually other people, but let's just talk about the mother, because she held deeply onto the energy of mom is the bad guy. Mom was my perpetrator. I'm a victim of my mother. And when I went into the Akashic Records, the records themselves showed me how this energy went through the family line, so through her genetics. She had very severe abuse. And then her mother, they showed me her mother's abuse energy and then her grandmother's abuse energy. So I saw how it came down the genetic line. Mitochondria is something that's inherited down the family line, but only on the mother's side. This is fascinating because the energy cell, the mitochondria, right? So the energy of the cell is called the mitochondria. You can only inherit it from your mother. And on top of that, the cell that's you, that little teeny cell that made you up, right? Your sperm and an egg. So the egg part of you was in your mother when she was 3 months gestation in her mother's womb. In other words, you have experienced your whole mother's life. The little cell that's you inherited the mitochondria and also connected through the energy of your mom, because the cell, that's you, right? The egg, because you have a sperm and an egg, that was always in your mother since she was in her mother's womb. So this feminine line is really important, especially when you are working on some deep karmic issues, which is why you go look at the genetics. So back to my story. When I was with my client and I was in the records and they were showing me how the mother had abuse and how the grandmother had abuse. The grandmother had some severe abuse, and really technically you can't really look at abuse as good or bad, because all abuse is energetically not good for the energy of the body. But what I saw was how this abuse affected them. And when we started to transcend it and look at it, my client at the time, she realized and she felt it, how much compassion she had for her mother and her mother's story. She didn't realize the extent. And she let go of a lot of her victimization by recognizing that it's okay to forgive her mother because her mother was also a victim. Now, that does not mean that what her mother did was okay, but if she holds on to the story that her mother was the bad guy, that her mother did these awful things to her and her siblings or her father or whomever, and held on to that story, held on to all the victimization around that story, what's going to happen is that she's not going to hold a higher frequency, and she's not going to transcend those lower vibrations. And that is the key. When you are on the Akashic Records in the quantum field, you want to transcend and transmute those lower vibrations. And it can happen so quickly that sometimes you're thinking, how can I let this all go? You just go in and you transform and transmute it. And I'm not saying that you want to do this. You know, everybody has a choice. A lot of people aren't ready to let go of their stories. They're not ready to let go of their karma. They're not ready to let go of any lower frequencies. It's not a good or bad thing, but recognizing that you are a sovereign being and that you have the availability to transcend it is exactly how you can. You want to be empowered through your life. Unfortunately, we're actually taught to how to be disempowered in our lives. And that is what I want to encourage you to look at your stories, look at your karmic patterns, and see how they have affected you through your life. Because if you are ready to transcend, if you're ready to empower yourself, then you can go into the Akashic Records on the quantum field and transcend and transmute that. The easiest way to do that is actually to read my book. It's on Kindle and it's on Amazon. So you can buy the paperback or you can buy the Kindle. And it's called A Radical Approach to the Akashic Records, Master Your Life and Raise Your Vibration. And this book will actually help you. There are meditations written down in the book that will help you transcend and transmute the lower frequencies that are holding you back. And I want to help you and empower you into changing your life because you want to transcend. You want to bring in higher frequencies. If you want the book, you can find it in the description below. Next episode, I'm going to talk about family shame and how to transcend and transmute your family shame to empower you to bring forward your own energy, to anchor in your higher consciousness, and to become into that wholeness, that oneness, and that higher frequency. So I send you so much love and have a beautiful day.